So if you've been to a She is Fierce event before, please put your hand up and let me know, or just let me know in the comments here. I'm going to try to keep track of everybody so I can see what you need help with, and we'll get right into it. All right, so you're all muted. Yes, you're all muted. If you have a question, I did this as a workshop so I could share the PowerPoint and also let you see this video of me. If you have questions, just drop them into the chat. I will be able to kind of keep that conversation going. And then at the end, if you guys have any other questions, I am super open and available. If you have questions after the fact, if you're working on some of this, then go ahead and let me know, and I'd be so happy to jump in and try to be helpful to you. So bear with me as I try, because I did promise this to like 20,000 people, as I try to share this on Facebook while we're going, but I will go ahead and get started in the meantime. Okay, so we're going to be talking about building a powerful personal brand. And for those of you who have never been to a She is Fierce event, you will know that, or have never been, I guess, you will know that we are a brand kind of based in St. Augustine, Florida. You may have some awareness of what we do, but we are a community of women all over the world. So we have women in 9 countries, I think, at this point, who are members. We do a ton of events locally in North Florida, but we also have a thriving membership community all over the world. And we provide professional and personal development resources, you know, coaching, community, and a place to come when you need a little bit of help to get on your journey. And in addition to that, we work with companies. We have incredible marketing partners that come in and provide value for our community, and we also do the same for them. And lastly, we are partnered with some incredible organizations and can bring their programming to you as well. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about myself as I try to share in our group. And then in the meantime, if you guys have just any questions at all, I would love for you to share with me, and I can kind of give you a little bit more insight. But a little bit about me. I am obviously the founder of She is Fierce. I am a mom. I have an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old. And this is day 13 for me of homeschooling. And it's the first time in 2.5 weeks that I've been alone for a few hours, as my husband has taken them so that I can do this with you guys today. And it's nice and calm and peaceful. So I'm excited to be here. I am an entrepreneur. I have worked in media my whole life. I have a background in TV and digital development, and I love working with companies, working with individuals, and focusing on your brand in a way that most people don't. So I think when a lot of people think about branding, they think about what is my logo or what does my website look like? What are the visuals? And I think that's incredibly important, but it doesn't matter until you have some of the other pieces down. And I know you guys have been learning a ton about social media, video, and how to actually physically put your content out there. So what I want to talk to you about today is how to make the most of who you are as a person, what you're good at, what your values and strengths are, and to make sure that you're communicating those in the absolute best way possible to get your ideal client, to get people to sign up and want to be a part of your world. So we have very specific things that are unique to each of us that are really kind of the foundation of our individual brands, and we're going to talk through those. So bear with me. Okay, so yes, everybody's good. I think we're good in the chat. I'm going to try one more time to share this because I know I'm going to have people in my community who are trying to get on as well. So bear with me. I'm sorry, guys. But okay, so your personal brand, while I do that, is an extension of your real life interactions. And you know, that is, if you're a professional, not an entrepreneur, that's like your leaders, your colleagues in your workplace. And if you are anybody, it's your friends and family. But if you are an entrepreneur, it is who is your dream client? Who are the people that you are meeting every day who maybe will never be your client, but will be advocates for you, for your brand, for what you do. And ultimately, these words I think get thrown around all the time. And I know sometimes I roll my eyes when I see people talk about authenticity because I feel like they're not even coming from a place of authenticity. And yet I cannot bang on about these things enough. And I want to talk to you about what that actually means. So it's not just saying I am authentic. It is being true to who you are as a human being true to what you value, and ultimately expressing that in a way as an entrepreneur that not only creates positive relationships, but gets you clients and customers and gets people excited about what you are doing and what you have to offer. So let me try this one last time here. Just won't share. All right, so the first thing I want you guys to do, and please, if you are up for it, I know you guys who are on here from Remax all know each other, so if you feel comfortable, share what your intention would be around having a stronger personal brand. So put it in the chat if you will, because that will help me to be very hyper targeted on the conversation that we have today. And so my real question for you is, I have all kinds of practical tools and practical ways that you can build a stronger brand that is unique and authentic to who you are. It's not a one-size-fits-all package. However, you will not come out with the result that you want unless you are very clear on why you're here. So right now, we all know what's going on in the world. We know things are insane right now. We're all trying to figure out, what our next steps are. We're trying to understand, how are other people reacting? So even if we're in a really calm and happy place, we are maybe not sure, like, how are other people handling this? Are my potential clients getting nervous? We don't know what's going on, right? So a way to strengthen your confidence in this time to give you a greater sense of calm. I know this sounds crazy because I think people think brand is like the extra thing that you do at the end. For me, I think your brand is the core of what you are. And if you can get that really hyper clear, you won't be as stressed or worried, because you will know that you have this really strong foundation that allows you to express who you are consistently in the amazing times when things are incredible, in the stressed out times when everybody's uncertain. You are a strong, confident person who is true to what matters to you. And when I say what matters to you, that can be from a business perspective, that can be from a personal perspective, that can be like your strength in your family, that can be the values, which we'll talk a lot about. And it can also be being a business owner, right? It's okay if part of your values, and I think that should be incorporated into who you are as a person and how you express yourself. If you are running a business, you want it to be clear to people that you are a professional, that your brand should reflect the fact that even in times when other people are uncertain, you have a sense of confidence and you have a sense of control over your personal situation. And I think you never want to be dishonest, but I think that getting clear on some of these things will help you to do that. So how can a stronger personal brand, or what can a stronger personal brand bring you? If you guys are up for it, drop your answers into the chat. And ultimately, your personal brand should reflect more than just your image, right? It shouldn't just be like, what are the pretty colors that you chose? It shouldn't be, this idea like, I am just getting started and therefore I have to have this particular type of brand, or I've been in this for a long time, so I need to project this sense of, being like an old timer who knows everything. Like, if that is not authentic to who you are, then let's get clear on what is so you can express those things. And I guarantee you will, as we get through this, you will see and you will be able to identify people who do this well, and you will see exactly what they are doing and why it is successful. So what are three ways a strong brand can help you achieve your goals? And I would love for you guys, I know you're in there, so I would love for you to actually answer that for me so that I can make sure that we're on point for you. All right, so here's what we're gonna cover. Why personal branding with confidence matters, how to use sustainable self-promotion. So instead of being the jerk who is constantly posting videos on themselves and nobody can figure out what the point of the videos is, and instead they think, wow, I really get who you are, and I'm not annoyed by the number or the quantity of what you're doing because I see value in it. And the value they might see might be a value to them, and the value might be that they just genuinely like you, right? So there's a way to be consistently self-promoting without being tacky. And I think that so many of us are just stressed and worried about crossing that line. And I know you learned a lot of the tools around how to actually put your content out there, but there's this big piece about what are you actually putting in that content that makes you appealing and makes you a strong candidate and gives you a strong brand. All right, so increasing your relevant visibility. We're gonna talk about relevance, right? Are you actually placing your efforts in the right places? Displaying confidence in decision-making. So again, a lot of this is around, you know, having a brand that gives you a sense of confidence and gives your clients or your potential clients a sense of confidence that you are the right person for the job, whatever that is. Communicating assertively, so being willing to speak up for yourself and the people that matter to you, your stakeholders, which we'll talk about. And then finally, overcoming unseen barriers and biases. So all those things that we don't even realize are holding us back, whether it's something that we are actually doing or it's something that, that we have no control over, but we have to handle and deal with. So, all right, and then I'm gonna keep trying. All right, so take a personal inventory. So right now, I want you to think about where you are in the public sphere. So do you think that people know who you are, but don't necessarily know exactly what you do? Do you think people know you're a real estate agent, but have no idea, you know, what you specialize in? Do you think people know exactly who you are and maybe they're like hearing too much from you and you're worried that you're putting too much of yourself out there? Like, what is the space that you are in at this exact moment? And I think the most important thing here is to not focus on your internal emotional journey and your stress and your concern or your uncertainty around how you put yourself out there, and instead to do the best possible job you can of looking at it objectively and thinking, if I didn't know myself and I saw the videos I put out there, or if I didn't know myself and I went to my website or I went to my Facebook page or I saw an ad that I published, what would I think? Not would I like, would I, do I think I did a good job? Do I think I look good in that picture? Honestly, that stuff does not matter right now. What you want to look at and consider is, what is the message that other people who don't know you and don't have a vested interest in your success see when they see your brand? And because right now we are 100% online, right? So some people thrive in the online space. Some people thrive on person-to-person communication. I know, especially in real estate, there are so many people who really just work off referrals, right? Get incredible referrals because you do a fantastic job. And I think that that is amazing. That's a really strong way to go with your brand. But you have to be ready in times like this to be able to shift and to have an online brand that is 100% consistent with who you are as a human being out in the world. And it's not as hard as it sounds. And a lot of it is really just being honest with yourself about who you are and what matters to you and being able to express that well. So I have some very specific tools and ways that you can communicate that as we get a little further into this. But the most important thing you can do right now is to get really clear about where you think you are on the spectrum. Are you just getting started, have no idea what to do around content, you don't know what your brand should look like? Or do you feel like you have a brand, but it's just not quite there? And right now, we want to focus, you know, I want to talk about the bigger picture, but I also want to be really aware that we're all dealing with confusion and uncertainty right now. And we all want to make sure that we're thinking about how we can not just serve our long-term interests, but serve our short-term interests. This is a little bit different from what I normally talk to people about with their brand, is like very big picture. Let's talk about who you are and what your brand is, and then let's get hyper-focused. And today we're going to talk a little bit more in the hyper-focused scale, because I want to make sure that you guys feel like when you walk out of here, you know exactly what the next step is. But make sure, and I want, you know, I just really want you guys to chat with me. So in the chat, let me know, you know, what does that personal inventory look like for you? Is it, if one was like, I just have no clue what I'm doing with my brand, and 10 is my brand is killing it. I know that because I'm making, you know, I'm hitting all my targets. I feel great about it. I feel like when I see somebody who I've never met before, they know exactly who I am and what I do. Give me on a scale of 1 to 10 where you think you are. And remember that it's not about and this is really important part about this exercise, your brand and assessing your brand isn't about judging who you are as a person. Just because your brand isn't reflective of who you are doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. It just means you need to do this exercise, right? It doesn't, I think a lot of times when we don't express our brand well, I know I experience this with people all the time. It's like we take that personally and we think I'm not good enough. That is not true. You simply don't have the tools yet. So that's what this exercise is about. All right, so yes, okay, yay, Karen. So Karen is saying she thinks she's about a 6, maybe higher. That's awesome. So I think most people would say they're like a 4 to a 6, right? Because most of us feel like, well, I kind of have an idea of what I'm doing. I think you guys, in particular at Remax, do such a great job of getting your messaging out there. I think Molly does a phenomenal job, and Remax in general do a fantastic job of being a resource for you and being a place to go to for insight and knowledge. But I also think that real estate, and honestly any form of entrepreneurship, is so, especially in the online space, is so dependent on your individual focus. And I'll give you a real example from my life. When I started She is Fierce, I was not thinking this is the Kelly Young show. I really thought, I want to start this thing for women. I want to highlight women's stories. I didn't put my name out there. I didn't put my picture out there. I didn't really feel like it mattered, to be honest. And immediately I started getting emails from people that were like, well, this is all great, but who are you? And I had no understanding of why they cared. And I think as a media professional, I would have easily told anybody else what I'm telling you right now, right? So I would have easily said to them, oh, of course you need to be the face of your brand. Of course you need to make sure that you're putting yourself out there. Of course you need to be the person that people are speaking to. But on a personal level, when it came to me trying to run my own business, I felt like that's not what this is about, so I'm not going to do it. And I immediately got pushback from an audience that was like, this seems really cool, and I want to feel connected to the person that is doing it, right? And so that's unique for She is Fierce, but it's not any different from you as a business owner. People can go to anybody, right? Like you can buy a house from how many realtors are there in this area? There's so many different options, and yet people come to you for a reason. And I think that we're going to reflect on why they're already coming to you, because that can help give you insight into, where you go forward and what you need to put your highlight on, especially in the online space where you need to be a little bit more obvious about it. But also, it's really important to get clear on who those different audiences are and create messaging that is personalized for those audiences. So I love and I appreciate you guys giving me some answers in here. All right, so let's see. All right, so I think I'm almost there. I'd say a 7. That's awesome. I have an issue tying it all together. I know people know of me, but do not necessarily know I'm a realtor. Okay, so I would say, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, if people don't know you're a realtor, and we're specifically right now talking about your business brand, right? Then you're lower than a 7. And that's not because your brand might not be, like your actual personal brand is really like just how you interact with the world. So that might actually be higher. Your personal brand and the way that you express yourself and the way that people connect with you might be an 8 or a 9 or a 10. But what we want to do right now is talk about, okay, who is your business audience? And we want to make sure that every single one of those people in your sphere of influence or your potential sphere of influence can see and understand what they can do with you as a business owner. Whether they're your ideal client or not, they have the ability to connect you with the right people. All right, so I love it. Let's see. Yes, personal brand. Okay, so, and I hope that you take that with a grain of salt, because I think that we're hyper focused on your business brand right now, because I know that's what we need, all of us need to be focusing on in this exact moment. And again, it's like not a good or bad or anybody's failing or succeeding, right? It's really about getting hyper clear on how you can improve. And even if you're at a 10, you can get better, right? Every single time I think I've done something well, I then am like, oh, here's the other 50 things that I should have improved on. And now I need to try to do that, right? And so I think that as we have this conversation, know that each part of what you're doing is a stepping stone, and every single time you're going to have the opportunity to improve. And honestly, that's just like, for me, I think that's amazing, because it means that every single time you move forward and feel like you're successful, you have greater success and potential ahead of you. So bear that in mind, and know, okay, so let's talk about your audience. I'm going to, because I know we have so many realtors on here, I'm going to talk specific to that, but also this really applies even if you are not an entrepreneur. If you are a professional in a corporate workplace, you have to know your audiences. And the reason I use the word audience is because it's not just about your customer. It's about every single group of people that you're interacting with, whether those are your friends and making sure that they understand what you do so they can help support you, like I just said, or knowing your stakeholders. So we're going to get focused on your customer and your client and your messaging there, but I think it's really important, and I hope you guys will write down, put it in the chat if you're willing. If not, get a piece of paper and write down right now or right when this is finished your list of stakeholders. Who are all the people that help to bring whatever you do to life? And I'm going to give you some real tangible examples of why you need to be worried about every single, not worried, but you need to be focused on every single one of these stakeholders. So many of us focus on our client, right? We're like, okay, I know I need to get business from this particular person, so I'm going to build a brand that attracts that person. Well, if you build a brand that attracts one type of person, first of all, how do you know that's the right client for you? And secondly, you're missing so much additional opportunity because you're not focusing on all of these other groups that can be like a layered effect of bringing you more of your ideal clients. So understanding who your ideal client is, I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time because I feel like a lot of you will already know who your ideal client is. And when we get into values, you might see whether that's true or not. But knowing your customer, knowing, here's my next slide. Yes, you have more than one. You have more than one audience you need to be serving. So in this example, it's the people that you want to attract as clients. It's the people you already are serving as clients. It's your past clients, making sure you're following up with them and getting those referrals. And then it's also, you know, all of the people that you're dealing with internally at RE/MAX. It's this community of people that is having this conversation. Within the She Is Fierce community, part of your audience is going to be other people in the She Is Fierce community. If you're in an organization like a realty brokerage, or if you're in an organization like you know, just a corporate environment, you need to also consider those people around you. They might be your friends, they might be your colleagues, they might be people that you cannot stand. It doesn't matter. It is still, they still make up a part of this audience that you need to be hyper clear that you are messaging to well. And yes, okay. And so I want to make sure that you guys really hear me when I say that. So let me know if you're willing to share who are your other audiences besides just your current or prospective clients that you guys are already thinking about and trying to serve. And I'm gonna get into some more examples that are specific to attracting clients. But I want to give you a great example from my own personal experience. One of our biggest, most awesome partners that we have, and who I absolutely love as a friend, as a partner, everything, came from a personal referral from somebody that I honestly had no clue had any kind of connection to this person. I didn't even know that, or to this business, I didn't know that that was an opportunity. I was simply trying to live out my brand in a way that was of service to our audience. And through that, somebody who I wasn't looking to as a potential client, who I didn't think was going to bring me money or bring me anything, was able to say, oh, actually, I know exactly who should be partnering with you, and I'm going to help you get that. And that was honestly transformative for my business. And I've had so many different examples of that over the last 5 years. And I think that that comes from being hyper clear about the core of your brand, but also knowing how you communicate to so many different audiences. All right, yay. I love you people who are answering. I appreciate it. Okay, so I've had some people I've met through social media, followers that have reached out to me. Yes, okay, you cannot overestimate the value of people who are connecting with you online who you've never met before. And I think it's so easy to do because, I'm gonna go back there. It's so easy to do because we think, well, I don't know that person. I don't know what their needs are. I don't know how I can serve them. But the reality is the more hyper clear you are on your brand and what you're doing, the more you can communicate what the value is that you bring, and the more you will attract the people that you want in your space. All right, so we finally have been able to share this, I'm very excited to say, to my She Is Fierce audience. So hi, everybody. I know that so many people probably tried to log in and weren't able to see it. So I'm going to share the replay here, but I wanted to share it as we get into this so that people can join if they were trying to. So yay, I'm glad it finally went through. I apologize for the delay. All right, so if you are jumping in from the She Is Fierce audience, you are jumping straight into the middle of our powerful personal brand session. It's the first in our community coaching series, and we have an amazing group of people from RE/MAX, Leading Edge, and St. Augustine who have been listening up until now. So I'm going to focus on the real estate side, but also for all entrepreneurs. And also, you know, I think from my perspective, all of this applies whether you are like an entrepreneur running a $100 million business, you're just getting started, or you are a professional who is looking to attract the right audiences and make the right moves internally at a company. All right, so something that I think can help us understand the power of a brand is looking at really successful business brands. And I think many of us, especially if we're solopreneurs or we are entrepreneurs who are running small businesses, we look at the idea of a brand. And like I said earlier, I think we think, oh, it's what my brand looks, or my business looks like, or what my logo looks like, or what colors I use, or like how smiley I am on my poster. And all of those things factor into the impact that you're making, but they don't matter at all unless you have a stronger foundation. So I pulled some examples in here for you of brands that get mentioned to me all the time as I have these kinds of conversations, and that I think everybody hopefully will have some awareness of. And I want to kind of do a quick review with you of what the brand's values are. So we kind of know their logos, we know what they do, but these are brands that have a very clear offer. They have a very clear message around what they're providing to you, and they have values and strengths that are really almost like go without saying at this point, right? So for those of you who are in the chat, or I'm going to try and make sure I can see if anyone's chatting in our Facebook group as well, let me know if any of these brands stand out for you and have a particular connection around why you admire these brands. And I would love for you guys to share it in the chat or share it in the Facebook group, but I'm also going to just go ahead and jump right in to a couple of them. So first of all, I want to talk about Rethreaded, which is a Jacksonville, Florida-based nonprofit that is a basically showroom for incredible products, and also makes their own products, bags and beautiful necklaces and all kinds of accessories that benefit a community of women who have been suffering from sex trafficking. They bring people in as employees. So they have a offer. Let's say the offer is a necklace, right? And they have a mission behind what they do. They have values behind what they do. So the truth is, just like with any of these examples, Anthropologie sells clothes, right? Tesla sells cars, Target sells life products and, you know, goods and services, and Starbucks sells coffee. We can get any of those items everywhere. Not right now because we're all stuck at home, but pretty much any day of the week, we can walk into a million other stores and choose to purchase our items from those people. And yet we go back to these brands. These are some of the most popular and most talked about and blogged about and shared brands because their values are front and center of their business. So it's not that Target's products are so much better than Walmart's. Yes, maybe they're a little bit higher quality, but like, let's be honest, it's not that different. And yet I haven't been in Walmart in years, and I go to Target like every other day, right? And part of that is because of the values and the feeling that I get from Target directly, and then also from the community of people, in this example, moms and women in general, who are enthusiasts for that brand. And that is what we want to create for you guys. We want to create an opportunity for you to have a brand around your business or around your personal brand for yourself that not only is hyper clear to other people what the value is and what you bring, but also that you have a group of raving enthusiasts around you that are excited to share and to express to other people the value of your brand. So I gave my example from Target. I started talking about Rethreaded. You know, ultimately they sell bags and necklaces and they're all adorable, right? They're all super cute, but you can buy bags and necklaces anywhere. So why do they have an incredible following of people that are just deeply passionate about what they do? It's because their values are front and center. Not only do they have it in their business, it's social entrepreneurship, but they also have everything that they do has a story and a message and a communication behind it that brings additional value far beyond the value of buying a necklace, right? All right, so let's see, Unleash Jax. I actually don't know much about them, so please, I'll Google it after, but tell me more about Unleash Jax. And I'm not gonna make you listen to all of them, but you know, Anthropologie as a brand for women, it's like they're selling very expensive price points for the products that they're selling, and yet people are buying because it's a lifestyle, it's a feeling, it's an emotion, it's a value that we have that is aspirational. And for those of you who are realtors who are listening, I want you to really hear that word, aspirational. And if you are an entrepreneur or if you are in the professional space, be aware of the kind of brand you want to create. Do you want it to be, and also going back to what I talked about earlier, who is your ideal client? Who are you trying to reach? And what are the price points that you're selling at? Because your brand should be reflective of that. And I mean, I have 100% seen people who have a brand that looks bargain basement and they're trying to sell a $10,000 package and nobody's buying and they're wondering why, right? And it's not that they don't have value in what they do. I meet people, honestly, I would say like every other week or more, who have incredible value in their business, incredible value as an individual. They have all the expertise. They have, you know, more degrees than anyone else in that field. They have years and years and years of experience, but they do not know how to express their brand in a way that communicates that clearly to other people without them having to explain it for 30 minutes. If you have to explain something beyond, I know like Jen Henry said the other day, beyond like the 8 seconds, if it takes that long for people to get what your value is, they will shut down and they will not wait for you to explain it. So we want to make sure that the values, the vibe, the intent, who your ideal client is, that all of those things are really crystal clear right from the outset in every single thing that you do. Okay. Karen. Okay, so that's okay. Yes, catch up on the rest later. And I said this earlier, and this is true for everybody who's joining from Remax and everybody from our She Is Fierce community. If you are working on this now and you have questions later, please just let me know. I would love to be of service to you guys and try to be helpful to you. All right, so know your values and signature. Okay, so grab a pen or pencil because this is where we're gonna get really specific to what your brand is. So not just talking about, now we've been talking about the value of brand, why you need to focus on it, making sure you're clear on your ideal client. This is where you're gonna figure out what the heck your brand is, okay? So your personal brand foundation is based on clarifying your strongly held values and your signature strengths. So these are the unique pieces of the She Is Fierce brand roadmap and system that I think for us help She Is Fierce as a business stand out, but also help all of the clients that I work with really get hyper clear on what their value is to others. And you can't do that until you know what your values are yourself. So I will send you a worksheet that has some examples of this, but I would love for you guys right now, if you can put it in the chat, go for it. If you can't put it in the chat, just go ahead and write it down on a sheet of paper. What are your top 3 values? What are the things that, you know, if you had to cross everything else off your list, you would focus on these particular things? And I mean, there's so many different examples, but it can be, let's say, so we're talking about your business brand, so I want you to be really specific to your business, but also don't lose sight of who you are. So for example, I know people who are watching this probably right now have a business success is a really strong value for them, but also their family is a really strong value for them. So those two things do not have to be in contest, right? They don't have to be fighting one another for attention in your brand. You don't have to pretend you don't have a family to have a really strong business brand. But you might have a family and love your family. It doesn't mean you don't love your family. But from a business perspective, the things that might matter to you might be, you know, demonstrating success, being determined, being a goal digger, I don't know what the right word is, being somebody who's really driven and ambitious, right? So that might be a really strong value for you as a business owner. If that's the case, then write it down. Like, why are you in business for yourself? Is it because you're a hyper ambitious person, you want to make things happen? Is it because you value security? Did you become an entrepreneur and do you have this focus on your business because you value security? You want to feel like you have a financial stability in the scary times? Is it, again, going back to the idea of like your family? Are you building a business to be there and to be of service to your family? Those are three completely different approaches and value-driven ways to start a business. And it can be the exact same service that you're offering, but your brand around that service should be completely different. So, okay, I would love for you guys to, if you will, put in the chat. I'm going to make sure that everybody can see this on our Facebook page as well. I would absolutely love for you guys to put in the chat and share with me what some of your values are that you're writing down. So I love Karen is saying, I want them to feel that I care. I think that's really important. And I would actually say, like, let's go a little bit deeper. So right now you're talking about what you want other people to feel and what I want you to think about just in the short term. We're going to get to those people in a second, but I want you to talk about just what your values are. So if your value that you're mentioning as a reflection of how you approach other people is you want them to feel that you care, then your value would be, in this example that you're writing down, it would be like caring, right? And I know it sounds like, why am I nitpicking? But you will see why. So I want you to write down these values. What are the values to you? What are the things that matter to you? Pretend you didn't have a specific person in mind. Pretend we're not working on the communication strategy. What are the things that actually matter the most to you? Once you get clear on those, because those are ultimately your drivers, right? Those are the things that give you the momentum each day that drive what you're doing. And it can be absolutely caring. It can be that you are expressing yourself and your care for the community through your business. If that is the case, then write that down as the example, but don't, in the short term, focus on how other people perceive it, because we are then going to create a communication strategy for you that uses that to the best of your ability. And 100%, there's a better way for us to communicate caring in a really powerful message than to just say to somebody, which I know you're just talking to me now, but than to say to somebody like, I want you to know I care. Well, that does mean something to me, but I can help you right now. We'll have this conversation. We can come up with a strategy and a way of communicating that means more to your ideal client and means more to you, right? Is more reflective of your deeper motivation for why you're actually running a business. All right, so what if you want to strike fear into the hearts of men and women? I'm thinking pirate warlord aesthetic. Okay, I don't know who's writing this, but I really like it. If that is the case, if those are your values, then I 100% like that is unique. And I think unique can be great, right? So if that's the case, I would put like some actual adjectives to that. So that's a really fun, I mean, you can even play with that for like a tagline, right? But turn that into something, make those some adjectives. So let's think about competitive, right? So that for me, like competitive can be one of your strongest values. I want everyone else to be terrified when they see me coming because I own it, right? And that, again, like that's incredibly, caring can be a really powerful value as a business. You're gonna attract the clients that are looking for personalized attention, that are looking for something that's really a sense of connection. Competitive nature can be a really strong value as a business. You're not gonna attract those people who are looking for you to be their best friend, but you might attract really big businesses that are looking for somebody who is forward thinking, who is competitive, who is ready to kind of take on a challenge. you're going to attract different audiences in the way that you communicate that. So there's a big difference between saying, I'm a business owner, I have a package, here's what you can buy from me, or I'm a realtor, I sell houses, here's what you can buy from me, and saying, this is what I do, and we're gonna fill in the blank in just a second, right? And we're gonna get very clear. I want you guys, when you leave today, to be able to write down, you know, this is who I am, this is what matters to me, these are my values, and this is what I'm amazing at that you're gonna get from your relationship with me. And ultimately, your whole brand should be based around those core values and your core signature. All right, so I love this. So your values are you're welcoming, you're knowledgeable, and communicative. Those are perfect. We're doing the exercise perfectly. Okay, so all right, so let's keep going because I want to make sure to get to your signature. When people meet you, they see your social media, how do you want them to feel? So again, and tell me your name, whoever wrote it, because it's under Leading Edge. Whoever said the thing about pirate and warlord aesthetic, I love that. And I think you want them to get that vibe from you immediately. And I think that you can do it in a way that is cheesy and that attracts attention, and that's okay. Or you can do it in a way that's really powerful and dominant and strong, and that attracts attention, and that's great. You know, I think that there's many different ways. Hey, Jesse. There's many different ways to approach what your values are, and some of them will not get you results, and some of them will be incredible, right? All right, so what do you want people to know about your talents and strengths? So let's move on so you can frame this. All right, so let me make sure we go. Okay. All right, so we talked about this a little bit earlier, but an authentic brand equals genuine confidence. So as you get clear on your values, as you get hyper clear on what the things are that drive you, right? The things that, you know, today, 10 years ago, 10 years from now, these are the things that are consistent about who you are. We're going to, especially in these times of uncertainty, having that consistent base and being really true to who you are. So if you're a person who is really caring and, you know, you're welcoming and you're knowledgeable and you're communicating well and you're expressing yourself well to people, that is not, you don't want to be taking that like, oh, I'm the pirate leader, you know, running ahead and trying to demonstrate how fierce and competitive and dangerous I am to everybody in this space, right? You want to communicate those values really clearly on your website, through your brand. That's where we do start to talk about what are the colors that you use, but you need to make sure that they're reflective of not just colors that you like in your house, but colors that reflect the values. Or, you know, this is where we talk about like the visual pieces, the fonts that reflect your values, the images that reflect your values, the way of presenting your videos that reflect your values. And you can do the same thing presented differently. It will have an entirely different appeal and an entirely different result. All right, so you can grow your confidence and share your authentic self and communicate assertively. I think it's really important to just note this for a second, that other people's issues are a reflection of their values and their issues, and you may have to navigate those people, right? You might have to deal with weird people who respond to you in a really negative way, but you don't have to internalize their drama. So I think that especially when we're talking about how do you present yourself from a brand perspective, and especially when we're talking about online, which is what we're really talking about right now, it can be intimidating because we think, well, I know Mary out there doesn't like it when I do this, or I know that there's people out there that are going to think it's weird that I want to be competitive and dominant, or I know there are people out there that judge me and think I'm like too sweet and saccharine because I like light pink colors. Like, those people do not matter. I want to get really clear. They matter in the world and they have a value as a human being, but they do not matter from your brand perspective. If you can identify those people as real human beings, or if you know there's a group of people like that out there, like, value those people because you know that they are not your audience, right? The more you know about the people that are not attracted to you, the more you can serve the people that are attracted to you. So stop worrying about people who are potentially, and I think so much of this is like potential judgment, potential drama, Stop worrying about those people and focus on the people that you want to serve, and focus on your values. So if you are leading from a sense of, I'm welcoming, I'm knowledgeable, I'm a great communicator, you're coming at the world in this online space from a place of real strength, right? Because you're bringing your real values. At that point, if somebody doesn't like you, then they're kind of lame, right? If you're coming at the world and you're presenting yourself in a way that is inauthentic, and they say, well, that doesn't vibe for me, or I don't like the way they're giving something off, that might be your fault. But if you are coming from a place of authenticity and you're being really true to your values and your strengths, and somebody doesn't like you, that's on them, and you just need to let that go. So I know I just know people struggle with this, so I want to make sure to highlight that message. If you are a person that struggles with it, write it down. There are people who will not like what you're doing. Honestly, who cares? Like, I can't express that with more clarity. All right, so when you're presenting yourself authentically, people and paths that matter will open up to you. So the more true you are and the less afraid you are to be honest about what your value is and who you are and the way you want to approach your business, the more you will attract the people that actually have consistent values with yours, who want to be served by a business like yours, who want to connect with you on a personal level and just be your friend, or people who, like I mentioned earlier, are really excited to be of service and to be help and to be advocates for you as an individual or as a business owner. All right, so it's the choices that, it's our choices that show what we truly are far more than our abilities. So another thing that I sometimes see people struggle with is they're amazing, they're talented, they know they're great at what they do, and yet they don't communicate that well to people because they're making a choice to work from a place of fear, right? So to come into the world and say, well, I know I'm great at this, so you should know that. That's just not how life works. And it's definitely not how online marketing and online branding works. You have to be over the top. I mean, I find it super uncomfortable. Humility, modesty, those are like huge values in my family. Grew up Catholic guilt, right? And I find it very uncomfortable sometimes how much I have to put myself out there. And yet I know from a business perspective, and honestly from a personal perspective, I know that when I put myself out there, my business grows. And I know that when I put myself out there, I actually help people, and I get people that reach out to me and say, oh my gosh, I did this or this or this, or so many examples. I, started a business, I got a promotion, I, like switched jobs and I'm able to spend more time with my family, or I made a really big life choice. And things that I have no idea in the moment that I'm doing something that it's having that impact, but I know that the more I put myself out there, that's what happens. And for you, the more you put yourself out there, the more that you make an effort to be really authentic to your brand, the better your results will be. And remember that it doesn't matter if you were the smartest person in high school. It doesn't matter if you know more than everybody else you've ever met about your particular field of interest. It matters that you are communicating that to other people so that they know what your value is. So assume that they don't know anything about you and they're coming as a blank slate. Okay, so your brand signature. So we talked about your values. From my perspective, your brand should be based on two things. It's your brand signature and your brand values. Your brand signature is, hold on, I'm skipping ahead. Oh, I put the wrong text on this page. Okay, so your brand signature is different from your values, and that your brand signature is the thing that you are amazing at, right? So it's not what drives you, what your internal dialogue is, what your internal story is around what you're doing. Your signature is like, what are you just amazing at? What is a skill that you have? And you can have more than one, but I highly recommend you choose one or at the most two to focus on from a branding perspective. And it might, and this goes back to knowing your audiences, it might be that if you get really sophisticated, you can actually have a brand that is slightly adjusted for different audiences. But in the short term, focus on your ideal client, focus on a brand that is going to be hyper reflective of what your values are, that you're expressing who you are as a person. And then here's the critical piece. Not only are you saying, here's something about me, so now you know who I am, but you're also saying, here is what I am amazing at, right? And if you guys, are you guys willing to put this in the chat and let me know, like, what are the things that you are just incredible at, you know, that other people just don't do it as well as you do? Be honest and be objective if you can, right? What are the things that people are constantly complimenting you on that, that maybe you don't even value? So a lot of times the thing that is your brand signature is the thing that you don't even realize matters. Great examples of this would be having a phenomenal personal style. So being a great communicator, being really welcome, open, having a great smile, being great at connecting with people, those are incredible talents, and that can be a signature in and of itself. Another great example would be being amazing with contracts, right? That's a completely different thing, but it's an incredible thing. So if you have a law degree, but you're working in real estate now, or if you are you know, working as an online coach, but you have a background in finance, those complementary skills give you so much power and such a sense of a unique brand that it adds so much value to what you're offering. All right, so I want people to feel at ease with me. I have the ability to keep people feeling relaxed and give them positive perspectives and have them feel that you're being non-judgmental. I love that. And I think that there's a couple things there. So I think that that is more reflective of your values than it is your, well, okay. So this is where you have to be a little bit careful. So you have, I would say that's reflective of your values. It could be your brand strength, but I also want you to think about what your other brand strengths might be so that you can have two, right? In this example, because your brand strength is so similar to your brand values. So your brand values, I'm going to scroll up here so make sure. So your brand values were welcoming, knowledgeable, great communicator, and your strengths that you're highlighting, or you want people to feel at ease, you want them to have the ability to feel relaxed, give them positive perspective. So to me, those just sound so consistent, which is great. You want your brand to be consistent, but you also want your strength to be something that stands out. So you want to be the person that people can connect with, that they see as being non-judgmental, as being knowledgeable, but also you want to have something that is a little bit unique and different. And that can be something from, I mean, you know, because we have so many realtors on this to say, like, it could be something from, I will meet you any time of the day. Like that, in that particular example, can be a brand strength. For other professionals, it might be, like I said, having a particular background in a certain type of finance. I've had people before, oh, hang on just one second, guys. Okay, so I've had people, just give me one moment. I'm gonna pause this for 1 second. Okay, guys, are you still with me? Sorry about that, it was so weird. Okay, that's what happens when you're doing workshops in the middle of social distancing. People are showing up at my business door. All right, so we talked about your brand signature. So like I said, it is the thing that you do, the action, the physical skill that you have, or the thing that you do that sets you apart and is different from what other people in your field do. All right, so can you guys, okay, let me make sure I'm answering questions. All right, so a lot of people reach out to you to find things locally. Yes. Because of my blog, people assume I have the answer. Yes, that is it. That is it. So in this example, we're going to use you as our guinea pig here. You have a great style, you're nurturing, you're welcoming, you're communicating well, and you also have so much knowledge about the local area, right? So now your brand is, I care about you, I'm connecting with you, and I am also connected to this bigger space that you want to be a part of, right? And we can frame that in different ways depending on who your ideal client is, but that becomes a much stronger brand than I care about you. Because I think especially in business, there's a lot of people that have that genuine feeling, right? There are people who genuinely do care, and they also are trying to communicate that in a really simplistic way. And I think the more clear you get and the more additional value you add, the more powerful your brand is. All right, so let's get into telling your story. So you know your values, I hope. Write in here and tell me if you know your values. You know your strength, or you're getting clear on your strengths. If you, so sorry you guys, people are coming to my door. Hang on one second. Okay, sorry guys. Sorry, people are coming to my door, which is very weird in this moment. Okay, so now I want to talk about telling your story. Thank you for your patience with me there. I want to talk about telling your story and how you communicate that brand, right? So we've talked now about what your values are, what your strength is. So what's that thing that really stands out that you are amazing at, that sets you apart from the crowd? And a lot of times it's a skill or a knowledge base, right? So I love the example of being connected to your community, having a blog, having an existing audience or an existing connection with people. That is a phenomenal strength. All right, so now we want to talk about telling your story. So all of this stuff is more meaningful, more powerful when you are able to communicate it well. So, you know, and what I'm going to do is I'll get a visual design person, like a brand designer, to come in and do a session for our She Is Fierce community, and invite all of the women and men who are on here from RE/MAX as well, so that you can talk about what the importance of color and importance of what your visual design is as well. But right now I really want to talk about how you verbally communicate that. And I know so many of us in this like crazy time where we're all in front of our computers are worried about how do we communicate ourselves, how do we express ourselves on video, right? And telling your story is the absolute 100% best way to do this. It's the best way to get your brand message across. It's the best way to express your values without having to say, my values are that I care about you. It's the best way for people to feel connected to you and to understand the service that you provide. All right, so telling your story, I want to make these really clear. Only 5% of people remember facts, but 65% recall stories. Since childhood, we've learned through stories. We naturally have a willingness and an openness to hear people's story. That's how we connect with people. There's a lot of studies around, you know, we connect through eyesight when we aren't connecting with somebody in person. We connect through understanding that person's backstory. People are wired for authenticity and reject stories that are not authentic really quickly. So when something sounds really braggy or really untrue or really sort of silly or implausible, people are really quick to reject it. So you want to be sure that you're really being true with your story and that you're not leaving out huge chunks of the hard parts of your story that that might make you actually much more appealing, but many people are afraid to put out there, right? And then finally, people want to hear your story, like especially if you want to do business with them, they are going to have an interest in knowing who you are. All right, so tell your story. When you are telling your story, whether it is on video, whether you are writing script for something that you're going to speak and say, whether you're meeting people in person, whether you are doing your elevator pitch, or whether you're writing website copy or email copy, be real, make it meaningful, make sure it has a little bit of your personality in there. Don't be like generic legalese copy. Be concise. Something that I struggle with being concise. I like to share. And so I think I either like don't talk and I keep my mouth shut, or I talk too much. So I struggle with that, and I highly recommend you do what I do, which is always go back and delete like half of what you wrote. Make every sentence shorter, make every paragraph half its size. And it also forces you to get to the point of your story. And most importantly, what is the point? So if you're going to the effort of writing website copy, doing a video, putting yourself out there, trying to build a brand, showing up for personal branding workshops, then you want to make sure that you're hyper clear on what the goal you have in mind is. So what is the point of the story that you're telling? And why are you telling the story? What is the point of all of your effort? Is it to get a new client? Is it to grow your exposure? Is it to grow your audience? Is it to make X, excuse me, X number of dollars by the end of the month? Be very, very clear about what it is, because that should help you frame the story that you're telling. And finally, you want to make sure you're the hero of your own brand. So you want to make sure that you are not just telling people what you do for them, right? A list of services, again, just like I talked about with the brands earlier, like you can buy clothes at Walmart, you can buy clothes at Anthropologie. It doesn't feel the same. It doesn't have the same appeal. It doesn't have the same attraction. You don't put the clothes on and have the same emotional experience. You don't feel connected. You don't want to brag about it. There's so many differences. And ultimately, you could buy a white shirt in two different places, right? So you want to make sure that the way that you're communicating your values and the way that you're communicating your strength through your stories is attracting the audience that you want to attract. All right, so a lot of times I think we tend to tell a story that is like an idealized version of ourselves. And what I would encourage you to do, you know, in this example, I'm just thinking about if you're writing website copy and you're trying to express what your values and your signature are, and you're trying to attract new clients who've never ever met you before, or you're doing like say you get off of here and you go do a video and you're pumped up and you're excited to share your brand and you want to share a story about who you are as a business owner. Make sure that the story that you tell is relevant for the audience that you want to reach. Make sure that you are being as authentic as humanly possible and you're not telling your idealized version. And I think that there are a lot of examples of people who tell an idealized version of themselves and it's successful for a little while, right? And I mean, I'm even seeing that like right now with everything going on right now, there are some brands and some really big name people that I have seen just get torn down because the way that they are handling this is so inconsistent with what they say they are, right? So the way that they are managing their business in a very short amount of time of a downturn is so inconsistent with what they're putting themselves out there as being super successful. And you want to make sure that that is never the case. If you're just starting out, it's okay to say I'm just starting out. And to preface that with, and here's what I'm incredible at, here are my strengths, and I'm just starting out, but here's like a laundry list of my story, the people that I turn to for advice, here's what I bring that's unique. There's nothing wrong with being honest about who you are and where you are and telling a story that is reflective of that. And you will ultimately, I guarantee you, get more clients doing that. You will double, like, I don't think that's the irresponsible thing to say. You will double your fan base. You will double your audience. You will double your potential ideal clients by simply being honest about who you are and what you're doing and what your motivations are. All right, so here are some examples. So if you're telling your story and you're like just struggling, I always encourage people, go write down 3 to 5 stories right now about your life, about something that's happened to you, maybe like a hero's journey, your struggle, how you got to where you are, maybe something that you overcame. Could be something that you're struggling with right now. It's like any version of that that is relevant, but make sure it's actually relevant to your audience and it has a tie back. Make sure it has a point that is not just you doing a counseling session, but you drawing back a point that relates to what you're doing as a business owner. And then so sometimes people do this and they struggle. They start to write stories and then they don't feel connected to the story, or the story doesn't feel real, or the story is just like not well written. And so these are just some tools that I suggest that you can do to help you kind of get into the right headspace. So if you find yourself writing, some people are great at it and some people struggle. There's nothing wrong. There's no like you're better or worse. It's just you need the right tools. So if you're struggling with telling a story that helps reflect who you are as a business owner, I highly recommend go find some photos of yourself at the time that you are writing about, whether that's yesterday with your kids or when you were 3 years old and something happened to you and you became motivated to do X, Y, or Z. Take a look at what you're doing. Use the descriptive words that you find when you're looking at those photos. Make sure that when you're looking at that photo, the story that you're telling reflects the values or the emotional journey that you had during that time. And just to give you some like really tangible examples for the realtors on here, I think some of the things that you might want to be really to kind of start off with would be like the story of when you bought your first home, the story of the first home that you sold, the story of somebody that you knew in your business that was a real hero for you and how you connected with them and what you learned from them. I mean, there's just so many different examples of ways that you can communicate the values or the strengths that you have. I mean, even a story, like a great example would be what we were talking about earlier. So if you have a blog and you know all about the community and you're super connected, is there an example of somebody who moved to town and got a job through their realtor because you were able to connect them with the right people? Or they came to town and they bought a house and they bought a business and they got started and they're successful. That's an incredible story to tell. And it's something that is, as a potential client, is really exciting to hear, right? Like, look at that person's success through their relationship with you. I want a piece of that. I want to be a part of that. That's possible for me. And it's true and it's authentic and it's really truly unique to you because that is your actual story. It's not a made up thing. It's not an idealized version of who you are. It is an actual representation of how you have lived your life. Okay, and then how do you feel? And then finally, do you need to, and this is a really important thing, when you write a bunch of stories out, you might feel like, I have wrote all these stories and you do not use them all. Cut the ones that don't end up serving you. Some people might write 3 and feel like they're great. Some people might write 20 and cut 10. Some people might be super prolific and you might be writing something every day. I think that's incredible. One of my goals is to start doing more of that because I'm always so busy working on my business or in my business, not on my business. And one of the things that I want to do is share some of the stories and the experiences of how She Is Fierce has grown because there's been just so much and so many lessons learned. So that's something that is like a personal goal for me. So I don't think it matters where you are on your journey. It matters how you are using those stories to be of service to other people and ultimately to be of service to yourself. All right, empowering other people through your story. So this is a really big one. And I think, again, this goes back to like what your values are and your emotions. For me, it's very important that I feel like I'm being of service or I'm doing something that matters. And I know from many, this is a story, from tons of past experiences, I know that if I'm given a project as a professional before I had my own business, or if I give myself a project and that project doesn't feel like it matters or doesn't feel like it's making a difference, I will not work on that project. Like I will delay, I will put it off, I will not do it at all. I will avoid that project with a passion, right? And I also know that if I think something matters, if I think I'm actually helping somebody, if I think that on the other side of this, there's like a real human being that needs this, then I will put 150%, 500%, and be ridiculous and do 100 times more than anybody else, right? And that is, for me, that is a really core value. And I know that that is true for me in the way that I live my life. And I know that's true for me from a brand perspective. I think that's very clear to people. Like every single thing that we do has a sense that it matters. Even when we're making money, it's incredibly important to me that we're also giving something back. So anytime that we are receiving, we are also serving, right? So that's a value. It doesn't have to be your value. You don't have to focus on that. Your value can be, I want to be a millionaire next year and money and security are really important to me. If that is your value, like run with it. Just make sure you do it in an authentic way. Okay, so we're coming right to the end now. So empowering others through your story. So make sure you're making a point of sharing where you were and where you are. make sure that you are clear on what the kind of timelines are. Reclaim parts of your story in which you struggled, but you now feel stronger. I think as business owners, we underestimate the power of telling people the hard parts. And for those of you who've been to She Is Fierce events, you will know that that's what we ask people to do. We ask these incredibly successful people to get on stage and tell the true story of how they got to where they are. And a lot of times it's like a really horrible story. And then it has like this incredible and powerful ending that is so inspiring. And the reason it's inspiring is because that person is honest about what they had to go through. And I think that just in life, in society, in business, in the world, nobody wants to share that hard part, but that's the thing that connects us. So the more that you're honest about that, honestly, whether that's like, again, just to like highlight the realtor side of this, if you are trying to sell a particular type of house and maybe you actually struggled in doing something similar in the past, but you were able to get through it and you were able to be successful and there was a great result at the end, if you can tell that story, then telling the part about, oh, I didn't do so great at this is okay, as long as you're also sharing the successful part and the piece at the end that demonstrates your ability to get through anything, right? All right, so making sure that you're identifying the gifts that got you on the path you are now. So again, those are like your values and your strengths, that you're just, every single thing you're doing, you should be banging on about those values and strengths. And it doesn't have to be that you're saying the words, it can be in the context of your story. So every time you're doing a video, you want it to be hyper clear. For me, honestly, it comes naturally now at this point, but for me, it's like every single time I do a video, I want it to be really clear to people that it matters to me if we're being of service to them. And probably sometimes like to a point where it's like unnecessary, but that is like how I genuinely feel that is authentic to my emotional journey. And so that's important to me to express that. Expressing gratitude to people that helped you get there. So recognizing the people that you know, have been of service to you is so important. And not only is that important from a branding perspective, but just to take it off the online piece, expressing gratitude to the people that are your enthusiasts, that are your advocates, is so powerful, because every time you're saying thank you to those people, it reinforces for them the power of being an advocate for you. And it reinforces the fact that when they took time out of their day to do something to help you, it actually mattered, right? How horrible is that? I mean, this happens, I feel like this has happened many times for me, where I'll like try to go way out of my way to do something for somebody. They'll get a job out of it, or they'll have some like amazing thing, and then I don't even hear from them. And it's not necessarily that I was even seeking something, but then later when they come back and ask for something else, I'm like, do I really need to spend time on this? And I think that that's my truth. But I also think it's important to recognize that that is everybody's approach, right? If somebody just simply takes the time to say thank you for getting me that connection, thank you for that referral, thank you for being a part of my world, then you, me, all of us are just infinitely more interested in helping that person again. And then finally, share where you're headed, share what your goals are, whether they're financial goals, whether, you know, going back to what we talked about earlier, whether your goal as a business owner is to support your family, whether it's about having security. People want to know what they're supporting. And the more that they understand and have clarity around what your goals are, the better they can actually help you achieve them. And lastly, okay, what I would love for you guys to be able to do is walk out of here, go and grab some paper and write these things down right now. I want you to write in, this is my name, this is what I do. So what is it that you actually do as a business owner or as a professional? These are my values. So these are the 3 to 5, try to get 3 values that matter the most to me. These are the things that drive me as a human being. And this is what you can expect from me. And what you can expect from me is your brand strength, the skill that sets you apart, the quality of your work, right? You want to be able to answer these questions without any struggle, and you want everything that you do to have some variation on this theme. Whether you're literally just sending out an email to say, here's a special offer, here's a here's a discount that I found, or here's something that feels completely unrelated to these, you want to make sure to have this communication incorporated into it. And then lastly, once you have those all written down, just take a few minutes and write a couple of paragraphs around what a brand would look like, physically look like, and feel like, emotionally feel like. when it is consistent with your values and your strengths. And, you know, you can also extend that out. So then every time, I mean, I have my brand values and strengths, like everything is so hyper clear and expressed in what we're doing. I don't all, you know, I'm not doing everything perfectly, but I'm doing my best to do that. And I think the more that you can do that, the more you will see results. They will start to come naturally. And I hope, I'm so grateful for your time. I hope this was of service to you. If you guys are working on this and you want a little bit of help, please just feel free to reach out to me. And then finally, you know, write down, what does your brand look like in the world? What does that actually translate into? And also be clear about what your results are that you want to get out of this, because that will help you to put, I think sometimes knowing what the goal you have in mind is will give you the motivation to actually put all of this into place. And it sometimes takes work. It's okay to admit that. But putting that work into place will be so powerful for you, and I think will ultimately get you beyond the results that you might even have in mind. So thank you guys for your time, and I can't wait to hear and to see all of your brands come to life. So thank you, and let me know, reach out. My email is Kelly, Kelly, at sheisfiercehq, like headquarters.com. Reach out if you have any questions, and I cannot wait to connect with you guys again. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.